Could you tell us then just how big a position do you have on Tesla? We understand you own the CDS. How big a bet are you putting on this?
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah, we are about 2.5–3% of our portfolio short in Tesla. But it's interesting that everyone has an opinion about Tesla, and also the markets are very segmented, because in a way a stock could be good and the credit could be bad, or the opposite. And sometimes those two markets price very divergently. And we think at the moment, obviously the stock has increased quite a lot after the last 3 quarters, and especially after the last quarterly results. But especially the credit in Tesla has become quite expensive. So in our opinion, we can actually express our bet in the auto sector by taking on long positions in other names, and then shorting more expensive names. So we think being short the Tesla credit at the moment is not very risky.
Can you just explain the mechanics of this trade? I mean, you're saying short Tesla, but are you long the CDS? Have you shorted the bonds? Are you shorting the equity? How does the trade look?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think if you want to short Tesla at the moment, it's very risky to short the stock, and it's also very risky, for example, to be short convertible bonds. But we are short via the CDS on Tesla, and the CDS points on the senior part of the capital structure, and there's limited upside potential in holding such a bond at these levels, and especially the credit curve in the CDS market is very tight. So technically speaking, yes, we have bought the CDS, but we would not recommend shorting convertible bonds here. That's simply too risky.
Okay, and what's the catalyst for this to make money for you then, Daniel?
Yeah, the catalyst actually is we are expressing a positive view on the pricing in the credit market of the overall auto market. So we have picked 4 or 5 companies where we have taken a good position, and we are long risk those companies. But to avoid becoming too long risk in the auto sector, we have also chosen a couple of names, Tesla and Hertz, to take the other side of that balance, because in the credit markets, the credit markets are very positive versus Tesla and Hertz, and probably less positive on some of the European auto part producers. Even though actually, if you look at companies like Faurecia, they generate a very stable cash flow, but its credit spread is actually wider than Tesla's credit spread. So we think it's a mispricing in the credit market, but not necessarily in the stock market.
And you own Faurecia, or you're long their debt, right? I have to point out a story. A couple of our reporters, Gabriella Coppola and Ed Ludlow, put out a fantastic story on Tesla that lays out the theories in the market for why this stock has rallied as if it were, Bitcoin. Number one, I think, or chief among them, is that people are calling it a short squeeze. I wonder if that's possible in creating $40 billion in market cap over a couple of days. Other people are saying, it's this the profits that they've been reporting 4 quarters and 6. It's the new factory in China that seems to have come off without a hitch. On the other hand, we have heard people like Herbert Diess actually talking about he understands this valuation, and he laments the fact that Volkswagen isn't seen as a tech company like Tesla, which lumps it in with, Amazon, Alphabet, Apple. What do you think the reason is for the really incredible rally in Tesla shares?
I think the issue with the stock here is that the Tesla outcome going 5 or 10 years forward is very binary, because as most investors think, the electrical vehicle is for the future, but it's not necessarily battery driven. But if the standard is to become battery driven over the next 5–10 years, then Tesla has a huge upside in its stock. But the credit won't notice this upside, because the credit's already trading very tight. But there's also a risk to the Tesla business model. It could be other technologies that are going to be the supporting electrical vehicles. We do not know yet currently if it's really going to be battery driven. It could also be fuel cell or some other technology.